On today's show, the San Diego Padres finally stop the bleeding thanks to, who would you trust more than to stop it than Mr. Nick Pivetta? Talk about yesterday's gem of a performance from him, updates on Merrill and Jake Cronenworth's injuries, a Michael King conspiracy, and a whole lot more. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Wednesday, August 20th. As always, I'm your host with sometimes the most, Javier Reyes, and I've been covering this team for almost 6 years now for a bunch of other places, not limited to this podcast, including justbaseball.com, chief among them. Today's episode, guys, is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Go check that out, and go check me out on the socials, Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. Any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out in there, or if you just want to chat. If you want to say, hey man, love the podcast, but I just read this book the other day. I wonder if you'll like it. Have you heard of this? Whatever. I don't care what you said. It's always good. You can also reach out to the YouTube comments as well. I usually read those every now and then. Today's episode, guys, we are recapping yesterday's game, just giving my quick thoughts on what was a much less eventful game. Frankly, much less eventful game than we had on Monday. Going to be talking about that, as well as a Michael King mailbag question that just made me laugh. I thought it was really fun. I did. And then also talking a little bit about Xander Bogaerts as well. A little bit of a rehash when it comes to Xander, but it's got to be brought up again. Just one more time. It's got to be brought up again. Let's talk about the game, though. Let's quickly get into it. Padres win. 5-1. Awesome. Love to see that. Getting a win like this, look, here's the thing. There's still 2 more games left in this series, right? We've got tonight's game, then tomorrow afternoon's game. By the way, stay tuned for tomorrow's postcast, which will be live after the game. It's 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time. I will be on the postcast with my boy Big Jim, kind of giving the live reaction to that. And he's probably, although unconfirmed, going to be on the show Friday, just to give you guys a little programming update. But the Padres win 5-1. And this is a series that I think you still need to really, keep your foot on the gas pedal, right? If you're the Padres, because the Dodgers sweep really was big, right? I didn't expect that the Padres would sweep them. I was hoping that they'd take 2 out of 3, but for them to not even get 1 really has put them behind the 8 ball a little bit in terms of just their chances to win the division, considering that really felt like the most vulnerable the Dodgers had been in a while. And it felt like the second time in the last 12 months where the Padres were really, in position to take advantage of a Dodgers team that was not at its best, playoffs included, right? And they did not. So the San Francisco series, for it to start off the way it did on Monday, right, with that home run being called back, and I really think that it shouldn't have been. We talked about that on yesterday's episode if you want the full breakdown. And they get this nice bounce back with who other than Nick Pivetta, the most trustworthy pitcher by far. I'd say it goes Nick Pivetta, and then it probably goes Adrian Morejon. Is that fair to say? I'd say Adrian Morejon, and strangely, can I say Randy Vasquez almost? Randy Vasquez, in his own way, has been very, very, not necessarily a good pitcher because he walks all the guys. We've talked about him all year. I don't know how he gets away with it, but I at least know what I'm getting from him. Dylan Cease, you have the Michael King injury, right? All this sort of stuff. You Darvish, he had a bad start recently. It's just been a little bit up and down. We don't know totally what we're going to get. So Randy Vasquez, oddly enough, probably the 3rd most trustworthy pitcher for the Padres in certain respects in his role this season. But Nick Pivetta in this game, he was phenomenal. 6 innings in this one, 1 earned run on 3 hits, 2 walks, which is and then 10 strikeouts, man. You cannot say enough about this guy. And I'm going to toot my horn one more time. That's a lie. I'll probably toot my horn many more times as Nick Pivetta continues to have an excellent season. But I was really high on this guy coming into the season. I didn't think that he was going to do this. I thought what was going to happen was he was going to be a 3.6 ERA guy who got you a lot of strikeouts. I kind of thought he would be discount Dylan Cease, frankly. Discount Dylan Cease from last year and years before that Dylan Cease, right? This year's Dylan Cease, discount Dylan Cease. I don't know if that pitcher would be able to be in the majors right now. You know what I mean? This version of Cease. But for Nick Pivetta to do what he's been doing with the strikeouts and just limiting hard contact enough, right? Don't get me wrong, he's not perfect in that regard, but to limit the hard contact enough and get enough swings and misses in Petco Park, especially, it's a more pitcher-friendly confine. He's been excellent, and it's been one of the few things that I've ever been right on this podcast. I didn't think it would be this good. I think he's probably, or at least he could, have some starts at some point, maybe against a really good team. Maybe they face the Dodgers again. Maybe he gets hit a little bit. You could see that happening, but he's just unbelievable. I mean, he even generated 13 whiffs last night, 5 on his fastball in 26 swings, and 6 on his sweeper. The sweeper looked great yesterday. And I love his attitude. The Canadian sicko, this guy. You know what I mean? Our Canadian comrade sicko, who at one point, and I saw this posted on Twitter, where he was like telling one of the batters, to like get closer to the batter's box, almost like he was saying, I want you to see this next pitch or something like that. And then he strikes the guy out. He's like, ah! Like he gets super charged up. He goes Super Saiyan a little bit, walking back to the dugout. The guy is just amped. He's pitching like his life is on the line, or someone else's life next to him is on the line. Right? Like, that's how amazing Nick Pivetta has been. And I've spent way too much of this beginning of today's podcast, I understand, talking a little bit about the Dodgers series and talking about only Nick Pivetta, but it deserves to be talked about. Nick Pivetta, one of the best pitchers in baseball. And eventually we got to do an episode on just him. And don't get me wrong, Ruben Niebla deserves a lot of credit with this too, but it was such a nice addition. And frankly, a little bit of a reminder that, guys, good quality players are out there for teams to spend on that aren't Juan Soto type of money. Right? And teams still don't do it. But hey, I'll take it. Nick Pivetta, 11th in baseball in ERA. I mean, just what can you... I mean, come on. Out of someone who, by the way, was your 3-starter/4 starter heading into the year. One of the true MVPs of this season. By the way, he's also... 19th in strikeout rate, if you were curious. So, Nick Pivetta, we love you. And the offense for the Padres, also, we love you. They showed up as much as they needed to, right? It was more small ball. You didn't have any home runs in this game. You had a couple extra base hits, don't get me wrong. Manny Machado, Gavin Sheets, and Luis Reyes. Thank you, by the way. About dang time that we got an extra base hit from our guy, Luis Reyes, man. Let me tell you. But it was just cool to see them just kind of fight, you know what I mean? Especially after the Jung-Ho Lee home run that Pivetta gives up to start the game. Manny Machado sacrifice. Jose Iglesias gets a single in this one. Jose Iglesias still has a tiny bit of that, like, if they make the playoffs. We're assuming they make the playoffs. There's a tiny bit about Jose Iglesias that still makes me feel like he could have a decent postseason run. You know, I said this about Arise last year, I understand, but there's just something about him sometimes. I like him on this team. Is it partially inflated by the fact that he's a super pop star and by default that's a lot of aura points? Sure. But overall, I love having him in this lineup, man. It feels really great. We're going to talk a little bit more about the offense and some players that have been getting a little bit too much hate, perhaps, from the Padres. Fernando Tatis Jr., one of them, as well as an update on some injuries and a whole lot more. But first, guys, 1 second. Because I got to talk to you about our friends over at... You guys know already. I said at the top of the show. Were you not paying attention? Game Time, folks. And I love Game Time. They've been a sponsor of this podcast for a long time. Because if you've ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family, whatever it is, when it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands, that's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. And with the money you save on tickets, you can splurge more on food, drinks, merch, or you invite a bigger group. I know they have all those fun little snacks at Petco. You know what I mean? I forgot what I got recently. I got something good, though, at Petco Park. I just forgot what it was. It was really yummy, though. Really, like, truly, guys, it was really good. But be sure to go check that out, guys. They make buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Man, it's official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. And if you're tired of endlessly scrolling to find the best deal, Game Time's zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you. You get a little discount. It's great. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, however, so be sure to keep an eye on that. And again, create an account and redeem code LOCKED on MLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed with Game Time. And just like that, everybody, we are back thriving and vibing here on the Locked On Padres podcast. We just talked about Nick Pivetta in the previous segment. And let me tell you, one more time. Actually, this is the second of one more times. So I lied. Check me out on the socials. Remember to go check that out at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO, /X and Blue Sky. Nice game for Fernando Tatis Jr. Xander Bogaerts in this one didn't do too much, so unfortunate for him. Luis Arraez only had the one hit. Again, we've been talking about him a lot, and we should continue to talk about him because he has been, in my opinion, an issue in this Padres lineup. There was actually a moment last night in which Arraez, you know how he does that like zombie first pitch thing? And I don't always hate taking a first pitch, but when you do it consistently like this, you're just giving free strikes. And last night, Arraez did it on a 2-1 count. Just zombie stared at the pitch. And I was like, what are we doing? I'm so happy that people are finally not giving me crap for not hailing Arraez as the ultimate god of batting, right? Like, I don't know why you are allowed to critique this guy in some circles. It's like very like old school generation versus new school generation, just perfectly coalescing and clashing on this one player. Anyway, that's for another episode. But in this game, Fernando Tatis Jr. 1 for 3, yes, but with an RBI and a stolen base and 2 walks. So again, Tatis is good at the top of the order, man. Like, I get why they keep using him here. Now, granted, the one RBI was him walking, but still, the walks still matter, guys, so it absolutely is really good, and he's been actually raking for a long time now. At least he's been a plus player. Just the home runs just haven't been there. I don't know what it is, but whatever. Ryan O'Hearn, 2 for 4 in this game, as well as Manny Machado, both of them getting RBIs on the day. Manny Machado being a ground out and Ryan O'Hearn being a straight single, which was like nice to see. It's really funny that it took all of this for Ryan O'Hearn to finally like get a start, right? And I'm referring to the Jackson Merrill and Jake Cronenworth injuries, which we'll get into in 1 second. But Ryan O'Hearn, I just want to throw it out there. Guy's got a 132 WRC plus this year, 277, 370 on base, 460 slugging. That's the guy that we won't give opportunities to. Talked about this yesterday, but just got to bring it up again. But I also want to bring up Xander Bogaerts really quickly. Xander Bogaerts has been very good over a long stretch of time, specifically since June 20th, right? Which is 51 games. Xander Bogaerts' slash line is the stuff of dreams and the stuff of my dreams, and why I didn't want to give up totally on this guy. He's slashing 297 with a 362 on base, 464 slugging, and a 135 WRC plus, right? So he's been really, really excellent. He's definitely slugging he's basically what Xander Bogaerts always has been, which is a doubles guy who can really have good, strong plate appearances. He's not going to swing at dumb pitches, good situational hitter, right? Great speed, and more newly, especially with the Padres, a really great defensive player. He's actually in the top like 6 or 7 of outs above average for among all shortstops, so he's been great. However, I do want to mention that during this same period, Xander Bogaerts is hitting 119 with runners in scoring position across 51 plate appearances with runners in scoring position. All right, if you want to go by WRC plus, he's got a 38, right? So he's not even doing like some walks or whatever, right? Like, he's been not great still in that regard. He still doesn't drive in runs. For those who are looking for an answer as to why this is occurring, well, I don't know. There's a lot of different things about this, which is what I want to talk about in the segment before we talk about Jake Cronenworth and Jackson Merrill. This is kind of why Xander's numbers, and then, you know, the dichotomy between that versus his numbers with runners in scoring position, it's one of the reasons why something like wins above replacement, that you don't want to forget wins above replacement, just any all-encompassing stat, you got to be really careful, because to me, this is becoming the exact same season that Xander Bogaerts had in 2023, where what he's been doing is awesome because it tells me he can still be a good player. But do I necessarily think he's been a great player during this stretch? A little bit. You still need guys to get on base in the first place. But I do think it matters that Xander Bogaerts had like a 4 wins of replacement season his first year with the Padres. But it didn't feel like it. Why? Because he didn't drive anybody in. And I just refuse to believe that having a little bit of extra range sometimes, right? Or more importantly, just being able to just get on base is still going to be as valuable necessarily as guys who can also do it when it really matters the most. So it's not bad, though, because, again, the best part about this is that it's shown that, similar to his 2023, we at least are seeing that his overall abilities as a player are still really, really good, right? He just needs to drive some guys in. And hopefully this isn't some sort of pitching strategy with him, by the way, that I'm unaware of, right? Because maybe they're like, oh, runners are on base. We know blank and blank about him. I doubt that's the case. These things usually regress to the mean. This is not the NBA. This is not the NFL where it starts to become more of a player attribute when they don't show up when it matters most. In baseball, it can usually be pretty fluky, especially for a player who, by the way, prior to this, was like a 320 hitter with runners in scoring position in his career, right? And in high leverage situations as well. So that's one thing. And I want to bring up Fernando Tatis Jr., right? Fernando Tatis Jr., you might be wondering, wait, what do you mean? Since June 20th, right? Since June 20th, Fernando Tatis Jr., who everybody gives a lot of crap to, leads the team in WRC plus in runners in scoring position situations. 153 WRC plus. 257 average, which isn't, again, that's not the best in the world. I understand that he hasn't necessarily always driven in, but he's got a decent amount of slug, and he's got a 447 OBP. Bogaerts isn't even necessarily doing that. That's better than Merrill. That's better than Machado since June 20th. So I just think that it's amazing how much our eyes can sometimes lie to us about certain things. That's what my takeaway is from the fact that Tatis, who everyone's been giving crap to, bottom line is walks are singles, guys, and he keeps doing that. Now, he isn't driving in as many runs as we would like. I'm just saying, though, that he's been pretty clutch compared to Xander Bogaerts as of late, at least for now, right? And we're going to see how it turns around. And this is one of the reasons I still have hope, because the fact that Bogaerts with runners on base isn't hitting, and Tatis just isn't hitting for power out of nowhere, and Merrill is getting a little bit unlucky, it seems, by some of his more advanced metrics, that tells me, like, there's room to grow at the top of this lineup, on top of the other guys who have been so good with Fermin, Laureano, and O'Hearn. So really good stuff. And by the way, Mike Shildt, in my opinion, I don't know too much, but I really would like if you kept Brian O'Hearn in the lineup. I think that would be good. 2 for 4 at his first start. Like, they gave him the start. And all, despite all the crap that he was getting from the media daring to ask him this question, right? We're going to talk about tomorrow my ideal Padres lineup, because I really do believe it's worth talking about changing it. We're running out of season to try things out. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're running out of time to potentially rework the lineup and decide, you know what, maybe this guy would be better here, and et cetera, et cetera. We're running out of time there. And that's why I'm like, I actually think we should press on this more and talk a little bit more about whether or not Arise should be number 2, whether or not he should be primarily on the bench, whether or not they should give Sheets some more playing time, maybe. Whatever it is, I think we should talk about it more and more. But we also got to talk about a Michael King conspiracy and a little bit of update on the Jackson Merrill and Jake Cronenworth injuries. But first, a word from our sponsors. And just like that, everybody, we are back here on the Locked On Padres podcast, thriving and vibing as always. And let me tell you, we have some injury news, because you might notice there is no Jackson Merrill or Jake Cronenworth action. Jake Cronenworth, my favorite underrated Padre. It's great. But both of them injured. And the good news is it doesn't seem like there's anything crazy going on with this right now, but it is still worth monitoring. And I think it's especially worth monitoring considering that the Padres traded so much in order to acquire your Laureanos, your Fermins, your Mason Millers, blah, 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 that they want to make sure none of these guys get hurt for an extended period of time. But in terms of Jackson Merrill, according to Kevin Acee of the San Diego Union Tribune, Merrill was noticeably limping on Monday afternoon, right? And then before Monday's game, right, there was an update. Padres manager Mike Shildt gave an update. He said, we're evaluating whether he'll be available for anything at all, which we're not certain about right now, and then evaluating whether it's day-to-day or something longer, Shildt said. Then, after that, there was an x-ray, and Merrill said it was chill in regards to the updates there. Again, I don't know how to go by chill, right? I love a little chill. We all love a little chill person. But with Jackson Merrill here, man, doesn't it just feel like he's having his own season from hell a little bit? Now, I've critiqued the Jackson Merrill, I think let's call it hype train, only because I think it's worth always bringing up how much sample size matters in sports to me. I always want to be careful and not just assume that because Jackson Merrill was a rookie last year with a 5-win season, right, slugging 500, doing everything that he did, right, transitioning to center field as a rookie, never played center field before. I just don't like assuming that players like that are going to be awesome the second year. But to me, what I love about this year is while he is swinging and missing at more pitches outside the zone and some of the metrics aren't great on him, I think that he's been finding his way. He's line and driving the ball more, right? Like, he's doing a lot better with his at-bats, not swinging at the worst pitches anymore. And some of his stats, his expected weighted on base is like 40 points higher than his current weighted on base. And his walk rate did go up a little bit this year, right? So to me, this was like, if Merrill was going to have a sophomore slump, I like that there's a lot of stuff about his game that suggests he's going to be okay. He truly is just having a little bit of a sophomore slump. Does that make any sense? Right? 7% walk rate this year, 4.9% in his rookie season. That matters. That absolutely matters. But man, it just feels like he's had a rough go of things. On top of some unlucky data with him, to have all these injuries. Remember, beginning of the year, he missed like 3 weeks. Then he had another stretch where he missed a week or two of games. Now he gets hurt again. It just feels like right when he's almost starting to try and get a little bit on the roll, like you can see it in his face. You can see the baseball rat in this guy, like how much he's dying to be on the field. And sometimes it just doesn't happen that way, right? Guys get hurt. But if you're the Padres, you got to hope, right? Laureano moved over to center. You've got Gavin Sheets in left. That is a little bit scary defensively, and it's not like this team is an ace defensive team, so you got to worry about that a little bit. But hopefully he comes back pretty soon, and I'm just hoping that it's nothing crazy. But if he needs to be on the IL, you do what you got to do. But for me, it's less about him not playing and more about just stymieing his momentum that he was slowly building up over these last couple weeks. I think that's the worst part of it all, rather than, let's say, if he goes on the 15-day IL. That hurts for me more because I want to see him back to what he was last year, because if that happens, watch out. And then there's Jake Cronenworth, who said before yesterday's game that he'd be available off the bench, right? Like, he said that. I'm expecting him back at some point. I think he could be good in that regard. And Jake has been reliable this year. I think Jake Cronenworth has kind of been, to his own extent, like what Arise can be with his singles. That's kind of what Jake Cronenworth is doing with his walks. Like, he's just been always a productive player there, and he's always been a guy that I really trust in big situations as well. And we've seen over the years how much he's delivered. The RBI double against the Dodgers in 22 remains in my mind, like just completely rent-free. So hopefully, I believe that Cronenworth is probably closer to being there. I don't think he would say I was available to pinch hit if they were saying we might not be able to do this. I think Merrill might be just like seething and doesn't want to even bring up the idea that maybe he might go on the IL again because the team has to be cautious with him. So we'll see. But as of now, as of the recording of this podcast, there is no update. But I have faith. I have faith. Let's talk about one more question that we got from the listeners for the mailbag this past weekend. And it was a funny one. It was from Tony Sue, who says, if I was into conspiracy theories, I'd say that every player has ouchies this time of the year. The real reason for putting Michael King on the IL, coincidentally just long enough to miss the 2 Dodgers series, is so that Randy Vasquez can be brought up for at least 1 and maybe 2 starts against the Dodgers, because take a look at how the Angels swept the Dodgers by not pitching flamethrowers, but running slow velocity pitches at the Dodgers. Example is Kenley Jansen, who once was a flamethrower but today struggles to hit 90 miles per hour with his fastball. The Padres might like to throw Vasquez at the Dodgers, who have a reputation for being a strong fastball hitting team. If Vasquez can be successful against the Dodgers, who knows who the Padres might pitch against the Dodgers? Could JP Series or Alec Jacob be called up? Will Nestor Cortez get a start against the Dodgers? Ironically, the Padres have had rotation depth issues most of the last couple years, but at the moment have options when it comes to guys pitching very average to barely average velocities. I think this could be a little bit of an oversimplification. I do. And what we saw recently, by the way, now Tony Sue did send this question before we saw the Dodgers series, but this listener question predating the game, we saw that Randy Vasquez can be like weirdly effective. So that's why I'm not entirely dismissing this, right? On Friday's game, the Padres lost 3-2, right? But Randy Vasquez, 3.2, gives up 2 runs. It's not the worst I've ever heard in the world, right? It really isn't. So maybe that's a possibility, but I think all in all, the idea that Michael King is a less good chance, assuming he's healthy, let's assume he's healthy, is a less good option than the guy who walks everybody and gets no strikeouts. I don't think that's the thing. But I do think that this could be why someone like Dylan Cease doesn't do well against the Dodgers, right? Because he's fastball slider heavy. And I think that when you rely on that fastball, and especially from Dylan Cease this year, a fastball that hasn't been located nearly as well as it usually is, I think that could be a problem. But overall, I just don't see how Randy Vasquez, like, we should head into this series being like, that guy could do it. And yes, I understand that with the Angels, they swept them, but you can't use single game, single series sample sizes in baseball because, and frankly, any sport, right? The amount of times I had my friend texting me like, look at the Celtics or some basketball team, like they're about to lose to, the Charlotte Hornets. It's like, okay, cool. There's like 82 games a year. I'm not taking anything from that. You know what I mean? I'm not taking anything from the Angels sweeping the Dodgers. Instead, I'm looking at as Dodgers just pooped the bed for a series. The same way we want to be a little bit lighter on the Padres for pooping their series against the Dodgers and say, you know what? Yes, that was really rough. There's a lot of criticism to be had there. But you know what? Sometimes these things happen. Sometimes you play poorly and it's not an indictment on the entire team or evidence of something greater, whatever, right? This is just what happens sometimes. Michael King, I think they're just being as cautious as possible with only a little bit more than a month to go before the postseason starts, still vying for that playoff race. They're just being cautious, right? And, with Joe Musgrove getting hurt as well, with the uncertainty around Darvish, it's just going to depend, right? And I think that the Padres are still in a decent position to do well in regards to all of these things, right? So, again, we're going to have to see over the course of the next few weeks how Michael King is doing. The vibe has not been that it's anything really bad. The vibe has been that he just injured his knee in his not rehab start, but his first start back. And it's just, they were like, you know what, why are we pushing this? It's okay. It's fine. And not to mention, even if they don't win the division, at least we won't have to face the Dodgers, most likely, on our side of the bracket. It won't be a second-round matchup like it was last year. It would instead be in the NLCS if the Padres make it that far. So let someone else deal with the Dodgers. Maybe someone else can upset them. Lord knows plenty of other teams have before. But guys, that about does it for today's edition of Locked On Padres podcast. A very chill, I say, episode of this podcast. I am hoping to see Ryan O'Hearn in the lineup tonight. If he's not in the lineup and Cronenworth and Merrill are also not playing, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to be like, dude, what are we doing? What are we doing? So look forward to that. My reaction, I will be crashing out if Ryan O'Hearn is not in the lineup, especially after his 2-for-4 day. A little bit similar to the Graham Pauley situation last year. Difference being is that O'Hearn is literally proven while Pauley wasn't. For those who don't remember, Graham Pauley last year, prospect for the Padres, who, by the way, has done some decent ball with I believe it is the Marlins that he's on. He would literally go 2-for-4. He'd hit a home run and they just sit him the next day. Yeah, he hasn't been great, but he's been a good defender apparently on Miami. But and that just annoyed me beyond belief. I was like, why do we have to give some of these scrubs at bats, but then this guy can't play? So it was very odd to me. But with that all being said, guys, that does it for today's episode. Tomorrow's episode recapping tonight's game. And we're also going to be talking about the Padres lineup and what I think is the ideal lineup for the Padres. And as a treat, I might even read through the YouTube comments again. I don't know. Might be curious. There might be some gems in there. I haven't looked just yet. And then Friday's episode, we're probably having a guest on the podcast. Just depends who. And if we are, stay tuned to that because it's going to be a real fun Friday, guys. And without further ado, stay safe. And of course, stay faithful. My Fry faithful homies, as always, take care.